Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my, I always forget, we're in May, April wrap up. Did I do much reading? Not really. So I think I read / finished 3 books in April. 2 of them I had already started reading the previous month, so that was the one about the sheep herder, insert thing here because it's already gone back to the library, and Leviathan Wakes, which is book 1 of the Expanse series. I did have it in a physical copy, and I said like I was going to read the physical copy and like kind of dip in and out with the audiobook. Guess what I did? Just kind of listened to the rest on audiobook, so that I donated my copy to my library, which is a thing you can do, folks. Donate read books to your library and then we can put them into good use. And then the other book I read was also an audiobook, so like April was a very audio focused month for me. I don't know what I was doing. Probably playing Baldur's Gate 3 for most of it, and I think watching some movies as well. Like there's quite a lot of movies to talk about, but some of them I've watched in the first couple of days of May, so I'll talk about those as well. But anyway, the book that I read is The Seas by Samantha Hunt on audio. I think that was through Audible because I've got like a $1.99 cheap deal at the moment, and so I was just like, let's just read as much as we can for that cheap price. Yeah, I actually really enjoyed this one. It's kind of literary fiction with a bit of magical realism-esque stuff in it. You could read it as pure hard realism and mental illness, or you could read it as almost like a fairy tale. So The Seas is basically about a young woman. I've forgotten her name. Oh, the unnamed narrator. That's why I didn't know her name. Yeah, so an unnamed narrator lives in the north of America in a seaside town that is plagued by alcoholism and is sort of just meandering, plodding along. It's kind of like the middle of nowhere, and it's just kind of a sleepy seaside town. She is infatuated with an older man called Jude, and her father disappeared when she was a kid, I believe. He walked into the ocean when she was 11 and, oh no, 11 years earlier, and never returned. And so in her mind, because he used to tell her that she was a mermaid, he is returned to the sea. So a lot of it's talking about perhaps her going to find her father. She does a stint in a mental institution, I think. Or was it prison? I did read this, I did listen to it. I really enjoyed it. It was just very kind of understated, and yeah, very much you could read it as magical realism, that she is indeed a mermaid and that she's stuck on land, and the only way she can get back is to... Well, it kind of feeds on the legend of mermaids, so like the idea that a mermaid will fall in love with a man and he has to love her wholeheartedly back, or she'll have to murder him and return to the ocean. Like the dark version of The Little Mermaid. And very much to me it brought to mind one of my favourite movies, which is Undine by Christian Petzold, which very much is the myth of mermaids and the idea of death and returning to the sea. So I just thoroughly enjoyed this book. I thought it was a beautiful meditation on self, of falling in love and sort of the infatuation of a young woman perhaps experiencing love for the first time, and how it feels so all-consuming and like literally it just takes over everything. And yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I feel like I'm probably going to read it in physical form as well, because I thought it was just really pretty. It definitely feels like it could be a movie. I don't know who I would want to direct the movie, but yeah, it would have to be like a slow sort of indie film, and it needs to be directed by a woman. Like potentially Chloe Zhao could do a good job of it, because her films look very kind of soft and kind of meandering, so like maybe, but I really enjoyed it. So that's like literally all the books that I read in May. Let's get to films. This is where I spent a lot of my time, to be honest, in the movies. Monkey Man by Dev Patel, and let me just say, what a revelation. Revenge cinema, visceral, stylish, beautiful to look at, a stunning sort of story of self-discovery and a riff on Hindu mythology and a sort of criticism of the caste system in India. And yeah, like literally amazing. How is this Dev Patel's first movie as a director? And like, I've also watched some interviews of his talking about the making of the movie, and it sounds chaotic and probably the most stressful thing ever, because like literally anything that could go wrong in movie production went wrong for this film. Mate, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't notice. But yeah, very much you can tell that he was inspired by Korean cinema. That's my kind of entry point, and most specifically Oldboy, which I did rewatch towards the end of the month because I kind of wanted to revisit it and see where the inspiration came from. So yeah, a lot of the imagery towards the end of the movie had a very Oldboy tinge to it. So there's like a moment where it could have become like the iconic corridor scene with the hammer. So like all the enemies come into the room and Kid, Monkey Man, is there on his own. But then it's subverted when a group of the Hiraja, who are like, I think it's almost like non-binary in terms of how they present, come in and help him defeat all of these people. But like, it could have turned into an Oldboy moment, and I like the subversion there. Then there was also like really towards the end the idea of ascending up the tower and into the room where the bad guy is in. There's like water and he's there on his own. It's like a confrontation between the two. And like at the end of the Oldboy, Dae-soo goes up to the top. The man's there with like a watery sort of lair. So like, yeah, it was a very kind of cool nod to such a classic of the genre. But yeah, I really enjoyed seeing it in the cinema, and I thought it was such a cool, accomplished film for a first-time director, and I'm really excited to see whether he's going to make any more movies. But yeah, if you like revenge cinema, then you're not going to be disappointed with this movie. What did I watch next? Oh, Anatomy of a Fall, or if we're going to be French for a moment, Anatomie d'une chute. Said that wrong. I missed this at a local showing because it was here very briefly, and I'm so pissed off that I did. I can't remember whether it was towards the beginning of the year or it was at the end of last year where it was showing in my area, and I couldn't make it. I really like Justine Trier's work, quite specifically Sybil. It's always on Mubi, it's a good movie. And I love Sandra Hüller. Like, literally 2023 was her year. Anatomy of a Fall and The Zone of Interest. I really do need to seek out more of her work actually. I haven't watched Toni Erdmann, which is one of her more famous works in German. Obsessed. Such a good, well-structured story, and kind of you don't know whether she did it at the end, and that's what kind of gives it this extra edge. But it's also like themes of like, well, it's the study of a couple and obviously a death, but like how slowly it reveals that all was not well between these two people. So basically the crux of the story, I haven't told you what it's about, but I thought you might know what it's about. A husband and wife and their son, who is blind, and their dog live in a chalet, and one day the husband of the family is found dead in the snow in a very like kind of beautiful presentation, but anyway, that's weird. And it appears that he may have fallen out of one of the windows, but did he? And that's kind of where the film explores, like, is the wife guilty because she was there? There's like kind of things slowly to come together. Then the kid in it, what a fucking fantastic performance. Same for the dog as well, and there was a point in the film where I thought the dog was going to die, and I literally just burst into tears. It was like really kind of, oh my god, I literally ugly cried because I thought the dog was going to die. I was like, oh my god, how can you harm a beautiful hound? But yeah, like, such a great movie. Yeah, it's in French, but there's also a lot of English in it because the character, I think her name is actually Sandra, is originally German, and in this her character is also German and she speaks English. And it's interesting, like, her and her husband speak English together because he doesn't know German and she doesn't know French. So it's kind of like English is the middle ground, and language really plays into this movie as well, like the studying of how people say things, the fact that she's got to try and defend herself in a language she's not native in. It just raises a lot of like interesting aspects in the movie. Also, the cover slash like instrumental, I don't know what genre it is, of Pimp by 50 Cent. Literally an earworm, isn't it? Played so often in the movie, and I was just like Le Vent Rouge. But yeah, 100% watch Anatomy of a Fall. Just do it. Instant 5-star review. The next film I watched is a Russian silent film from 1929. Why? I was on Mubi and I think it was leaving soon, and I'd been meaning to watch it because like it's like one of those films you watch if you want to be a filmmaker, to look at composition, to look at experimentalization within the medium, and it's a classic of that kind of thing. So I watched it. Was it boring? A little bit, but some of the way it's shot is beautiful. So it's basically like a day in the life of Soviet Russia. It basically just follows people getting up in the morning, doing their things. There's a lot of like industry in it. I did like read a little bit about it because I was like, I'm interested in like criticism of it, and it talks about it being a very Marxist film because at a certain point in the movie you actually see the editing process. So like it shows you the means of production, which kind of feeds into the idea of it being a Marxist, therefore Soviet Union era film, which was interesting. Is it for everyone? No, it's not. If you want to get inspired by, like I said, the reason why I watched it, by like shots, composition, and just, I mean, potentially it could be a useful film for YouTubers to watch, like vloggers, to kind of get ideas on how to do like a day in the life. OMG, was this like the original daily vlog of who did it? Ziga Vertov was the original YouTuber before YouTube even existed. Original vlogger. But yeah, like it's so niche it hurts. But watch it if you want to find out what it is. Oh yeah, it's called Man with a Video Camera. Did I didn't even tell you what it was called. The final film I watched in April was L'Innocent, or The Innocent, by Louis Garrel. I'd been meaning to watch this film for ages because I do enjoy Louis Garrel. Who doesn't? And it's like a film he's written and directed and acted in as his stock character called Abel. Like, I swear every single film he's ever made, his character is always called Abel. What does that mean? But it's kind of very autobiographical, this one, in terms of it's about a man whose mother marries a person in prison that she meets while she's teaching drama there. And apparently that really happened to Louis Garrel. But it's just such a playful film, very much comedic. There's like a heist in it. It's a rom-com as well. It's got Nomi Merlan in it, who was in Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which is one of the most beautiful love films you'll ever see. Yeah, so it's like a quirky sort of rom-com heist comedy family film. Should it work? Not really by that kind of description, but it's a good film. It's a nice, fun, easy to watch movie. So yeah, I'm just going to quickly run through the films. Not really quickly, I'll talk about them. But I won't remember them at the end of May, so I'm going to talk about them now. I think we don't need to keep telling you this. So then I rewatched Chungking Express by Wong Kar-wai. The main reason why I did that is because it's kind of like set around May the 1st. Because of like a whole thing in the movie about this guy having someone break up with him on April Fool's Day, and he's like, shall I take this seriously? What a cute thought. And so then he starts collecting pineapple cans that expire on the May the 1st, because he's like, I'm gonna give it until then to like really be like, okay, it's over. So then I was like, gotta watch it on May the 1st. I love that movie. Like, it's so just, I feel nostalgic for a place I've never been, in a time that I was literally in infancy. So I didn't really have a kind of knowledge of what the 90s was for a good chunk of it. But there's just something so magnetic about Wong Kar-wai's style, and just it very much feels so visceral that you could reach out and touch it. And like, that's an interesting theme in the film, because there's like a whole bit about being like 0.1 millimeters away from someone and how close you can be to someone, and you can just brush through their life and perhaps never encounter them again, or you can slowly sort of integrate yourself into someone's life, which is kind of what Faye Wong's character does in the second half of the movie. And I just think, is she batshit? Yes, she... home invasion, but it's just so cute. Go into his house to clean up, to kind of give him, I don't know, it's a crime. She's a criminal, but she's a cute criminal. And Tony Leung in this as well, like, so handsome, and just the chemistry that he has with Faye Wong, beautiful. I love it. One of my favourite movies. It's just so kinetic and like achingly romantic, and talks about like loneliness in a big city, and it's just so human, man. Beautiful, beautiful. If you haven't seen it, watch it, please. I will beg you until the end of time to watch some Wong Kar-wai movies. Just do it. Just do it. Then I saw Challengers. Why did I go into this thinking it was going to be like the sexiest movie of the year? It was kind of like a bit, but it was more like teasing than actually raunchy. So like, I don't know whether I went in with weird expectations, but it's a very fast-paced, interesting film about tennis, but it's more than just tennis. In fact, like, they're all talking about tennis, but are they actually talking about tennis? Basically a love triangle between Tashi, who should have gone pro but had an injury, Art, who's like is okay at tennis but he's just kind of going through the motions, and the other guy, I've forgotten his name, is actually not that forgettable. Like, he's probably one of the more interesting characters of the movie. What is his name? Patrick. Yeah, so like it's a love triangle between them, and you kind of think like, and there's like homoeroticism in it as well. There's like dissatisfaction. It's a very summer movie, and it's directed by Luca Guadagnino, who did Call Me By Your Name, the Suspiria remake, and Bigger Splash. So yeah, he's like a brilliant director, and the script for this is so tight, like everything happens just at the right moment, so it just keeps you engaged, even though it's like quite a long runtime. A little bit towards the end maybe, I was just like, oh, can we just get there? Like, can we just get to the climax and see who's going to win this game? But then, is that really the frustration of it being slow, or is it because you're building so much tension that you want to kind of find out who's going to win this tennis match? Also, the soundtrack is absolutely banging. Like, it's by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, the guys that did the Facebook movie soundtrack. The Social Network, that's the Facebook movie. Yeah, so I always enjoy their scores of films, but this was particularly energetic and very kind of almost techno, which was cool, and kind of just gave the film extra sort of energy and sort of added to the frenetic tension. Some of the reviews for this film: may thy racket chip and shatter. Letterboxd users think they're so funny, and they're actually hilarious sometimes. Average day for Wii Sports players. Do they need a fourth? Everything is sex except sex, which is tennis. Yeah, so like it's quite an enjoyable movie. Then I watched Cleo from 5 to 7, which is a classic of the French New Wave. It's by Agnes Varda. And to be honest, like I say I'm a fan of the French New Wave, but I think I've only, until Cleo from 5 till 7, seen Godard movies, which is a bit like, but I'm like working my way through the French New Wave. There's so much material. But yeah, so this is my first Agnes Varda, and it won't be my last because it was beautiful. Kind of melancholy, but still romantic. Again, like the romantic melancholy feeling of meandering and walking through a city. And then there's also this idea that she's waiting for test results from a medical examination. So there's almost like an existential dread kind of hovering over her, which is very French. And it's just beautifully shot, and just feels again like a very succinct and raw feeling of a place at a certain time. And Paris in the 50s and 60s, what would I give to be living there and being in the film industry at that time? I'd give my soul. Satan, baby, you got a customer. There's just something so beautiful about films made in this era. Yeah, and there's like a musical number part of the way into this that feels like one of the most stunning realizations of music in film, and like just the way it kind of zooms into the character and just kind of bears her soul. Stunning. Next, I watched The Bare Necessity, or as it's called in French, Perdrix, which is like the name of the family that it revolves around. And it's about this weird little family in the middle of France who are kind of stuck in the motion of just existing. So there's the matriarch, 2 sons, and then one of the sons has a daughter, and they all live in the same chateau kind of manor house. And yeah, they're just kind of like plodding along until some weird ass woman comes into their lives, or more specifically one of the sons' lives. And so the son is a police officer in the area. There's not much to do, there's not much crime, except for a weird nudist problem, where literally there's these bunch of nudists that go around stealing people's clothes or stealing their cars and then just stripping them or something. It's quirky AF, and it really leans into that. It feels very much like The Royal Tenenbaums by Wes Anderson, but like make it French. Some of the scenery is stunning, and it's actually got the dude from, what's it called? Anatomy of a Fall in it, Swan Arlo. Yes, it's just like a charming Wes Anderson-esque in the way that they're quirky, not in the way of symmetry and very stylized. Just a cute romantic comedy. And it's kind of like almost life-affirming. Like if you're feeling like you're stuck in a rut, then maybe watch this movie and just kind of feel a lightness. Then I watched so many movies, so many French movies at the moment, because I want to learn French again. Oh wait, here we go again. Because I watched a French movie, Anatomy of a Fall, thank you very much, I now want to relearn French and become fluent. But like, there's been times where I've got so close. Like I did French for a few terms at university. I completed a unit called Intermediate French, and then I lost it all because I was just like, oh my god, I'm so tired and oh, too much French. Is 2024 the year I become French? What? Become French? Become fluent in French? But yeah, so then I watched Both Sides of the Blade, which is directed by Claire Denis. I think I've seen quite a few Claire Denis films, and this one was particularly shit. It wasn't shit, but it was just a bit boring. But it's got Juliette Binoche in it, who I think is just a stunning performer. But I don't know, like some of the beats in the film and her performance felt a bit like another film I'd seen her in. I think it's interesting, like, because like how diversely can you act in a situation? But like there's moments of panic in this film because she's having an affair. It's a French movie, of course, there's a menage a trois in it. Yeah, and it just, I felt like I'd seen this performance before, which was a bit strange. But yeah, like the idea behind it is there's this woman who has been married to this guy for 10 years. He's an ex-convict, but he's like turned his life around, and he's got a son who lives in the countryside with his mother, so the son lives with the grandmother. And Juliette Binoche's character was previously with someone who is friends with her husband, and then the friend of the husband comes back into both their lives to start like a new business or something, and so he recruits the husband into it, which then excites Juliette Binoche's character because she's like, oh, he's back in my life. But like there's sort of a nervous energy to it because she's like, oh shit, can I really see him again? Because she was so in love with him, but it was, I think, a toxic relationship by the sounds of things. And so it's just like basically marital drama, arguments between couples, liaisons with men outside of wedlock. I don't know how to describe it, but yeah, it's just very typical of a sort of cheating film. Meh, it was good, but like not that great. Okay, yeah, so they are all the movies that I watched in April and like the beginning of May. But I feel like I'm on like a movie binge at the moment, so there's gonna be plenty to talk about at the end of May as well. That is the end of the video. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments what you've been reading and watching in the month of April / the beginning of May, and I will see you again very soon. Bye bye.
Never ending dust, faces look up for another losing game.